So, a long time ago, when I first ever started lifting, I was going through probably the hardest time in my entire life. And I had no idea where I was going with myself. I had no idea what I wanted to be. And I just knew that I wanted to change. And the biggest thing that I realized was that no one was just going to do it for me, which you've probably heard a million times if you've ever wanted to progress with something. But that was the biggest thing that I learned, was that it wasn't just going to change because I wanted it to. I had to make something change, and that's where I started telling myself that nothing changes if nothing changes. And that's the complete truth. If you don't do anything for yourself, if you don't dig yourself out of the hole that you've been stuck in that's ruining your life, nothing's going to happen. Everything is going to stay the same if you let it. And that's why you need to learn to take action. And that is much easier said than done. I really struggled to do that myself. And it's something that I still work on now. It's a human thing to be stuck. And I think the biggest thing that you can realize is that we are geared to progress. We're made to problem solve and find our way out of those things. So although it's normal to feel terrible about yourself or your mental health or your physical appearance, it's something that everyone, no matter how bad it is capable of escaping it. One big thing that I believe a lot of people start to hear is that they just need that big break. That's what a lot of people think that they need, is just one little thing to change, that once this gets going, then they'll be locked in. Once summer hits and they start that workout routine that they wrote 9 months ago, it's gonna all fly by and they're gonna be a whole new person. Or this New Year's resolution you're gonna start this year that you said you were gonna start last year and the year before that, it's not just gonna change in one night. And that's what you have to realize, is that you're not going to have that big break. It's not just going to be this jolt of motivation. It's not going to go away. This feeling that it's hard, that you don't want to go, that you don't want to go work out, that you don't want to eat these foods, it's not just going to go away. You're not suddenly just going to find the courage to do it. You have to make yourself do it despite those feelings. And that was the biggest thing that I realized that got me past that hurdle, was realizing that I have to just drag myself to the gym. I have to just make these foods and eat it, even if I'd rather have a donut, even if I'd rather have pizza. I have to do these things if I really want to make progress. And a question that I had to ask myself was, do I want that goal? Do I want to love myself more than I want to eat this pizza? More than I want to skip the gym and stay home to play games? That's something you have to ask yourself. And I'm not saying that, I'm not going to be Andrew Tate for you and tell you no more games, no more pizza, no more anything. You have to work 24/7. You have to go to the gym 24/7. You can never have fun. I'm not telling you that. You're never going to make progress that way. That's what you have to realize, is that the biggest thing you can implement is a balance. And that takes time to find, but it's possible. I found it. A lot of other people have found it. But that phase of being on the middle and feeling stuck, not knowing what to do, what to stop doing, it's normal, but you have to push yourself past that barrier of just not wanting to do anything. If you can drag yourself to the gym like I did, you will make progress. It'll take time and it's going to suck. You're going to hate it, but once you get past it, you will be so much happier, and I know that because I did it. I remember specifically being in the gym, and I was walking over towards the water fountain. This was such a vivid memory for me, because it was the biggest turning point that I ever had with my journey. Was I was walking over towards the water fountain. It was late at night. I was the only one in the gym. I had just woken up, I slept all day, and I felt like such a bum because I woke up at like 8 o'clock at night. I hadn't gotten anything done, and I felt terrible. But I dragged myself to the gym. I hadn't eaten, I hadn't drank anything, I didn't even have caffeine, and I was having one of the worst nights that I had had in a really long time. And I remember specifically walking towards the water fountain. I even remember exactly what I was wearing that night. And I thought in my head, is this really worth it? And should I just quit? I was genuinely considering in that moment for the first time after almost a year of lifting if I should just quit and give up. And I asked myself that question in that moment that I mentioned earlier. If I give up now, am I going to be happier giving up and sitting at home and just trying to accept the body that I hadn't been able to accept for my entire life? Or will I be more satisfied just pushing through these nights that I was having that night, hating my body, not wanting to work out, being tired, and overall demotivated? I felt like a failure. I was doing nothing with my life. But after asking myself that question, I had the answer. In that moment, within seconds, I knew my answer was that obviously I'd much rather endure those nights that I knew weren't going to be permanent. It was just a process that I would have to endure, but I knew that that was now my answer. Would I rather accept the body I hated or work through it? And I chose to work through it, and now I'm here today. And I never imagined I would make it as far as I have in terms of progress and mental health, but I did. I can put up some pictures on the screen for you of what I used to look like and what I look like now. And at the moment, I have been lifting for just under 3 years, and it has been the best 3 years of my life. Despite all of the hardships I've gone through, all of the struggles I've endured, I have become such a better person, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually. I feel a lot more connected with myself because of the things that I've changed in my life, and I would honestly recommend anyone do the exact same things I've done to get to the point that I'm at now. I can show you as well a picture of someone who used a little bit of my advice and what he used to look like, then what he looked like after he started taking my advice. Whenever I've mentored anyone in the past, one of the biggest things that I enjoy providing people with is not just the basic things like a workout routine or a diet plan, because although those things are helpful, it's not just going to make someone click in their brain that they need to change something, that they need to become a new person, that they need to make a change. The biggest thing that anyone can get when it comes to fitness, even if they don't think it's their main problem, is accountability. And that was one of the biggest things in the beginning for me that allowed me to make a difference, was realizing that I couldn't just do this with no sort of guidance. I felt completely clueless and I had no idea where to go, and it was like I was spinning tires in the mud. And after I began looking for people who really knew what they were doing, then I started to see the things that were out there for me, and I started to realize that more people were struggling the way that I was, but there were also people that had gotten out of that, and I could seek guidance from those people so that I could end up in their shoes, which is exactly what I wanted, and that's exactly what I did upon doing that. Whenever I've really tried to help people and keep them accountable, one of the biggest things that I like to do is don't just treat them like a client. Don't give them advice in a way that you're just giving it to them because they gave you money or something. It's best to genuinely treat that person like they're your family member, and that's exactly what I try to do, because if you disregard the physical aspect of it and get into their mental state, get into their head, and try to really understand why they feel the way that they do, you'll be able to solve those problems so much easier. And that's what I've been able to do with myself, which is exactly why I try to provide other people with that, is because I know that it's more of a mental battle than a physical battle. And I believe genuinely getting on the phone with someone that I'm mentoring and understanding who they really are as a person helps you assess their goals so much better than if they just tell you in a text, that they want to lose this amount of pounds or they want to be this body fat by summer. I think that understanding who a person is can help you channel their emotions and help you genuinely pinpoint the problem that they're struggling with, because I, as a person, know that all of my physical appearance issues came from the inside. It came from a mental health battle, and it was only after I started to realize that and acknowledge it and work on that mental health aspect that I began to make physical progress. Before I had any sort of accountability, I spent more time thinking and contemplating what I was going to do than actually doing it, because I had no idea where to go next. I genuinely struggled knowing what workouts I should be doing, what I should be eating, when I should be eating certain things, what type of cardio I should be doing. There's so many different things that go into fitness that it's easy to get lost in the questions and feel completely stranded. And I genuinely believe that after I began finding accountability, and of course now giving others accountability, I have even more proof of that it's the biggest thing that anyone can find in their fitness journey. And I have become a completely different person after finding that, and then upon getting that from others, I've now learned to give accountability to myself and hold myself accountable as though I'm a different person on the outside. And it changed me completely. I'm able to stick to my diet so much easier than I used to. I'm able to make myself work out even when I don't want to. If I'm tired and I'm about to stop my lift because I'm having a terrible one, I'll ask myself, do I really have to go home right now? Do I really have to give up on this lift? And if the answer is no, if I'm physically capable of continuing, then I do it. That's all you have to do. And once you get in that rhythm, it's so easy to keep that up. But if you don't have someone there to help you get used to it and genuinely give you an understanding of what accountability means beyond that surface level that I've mentioned, then you're going to continue spinning those tires in the mud like I did. I grew up with a great life, honestly. I can't say that, I hated myself growing up and that I never liked the way that I looked, because that wasn't true. For a long time, I never even paid any mind to my appearance whatsoever. But as I started to get older, I had more and more access to social media, and at one point I really started to realize the toll that was taking on me. I struggled to, even go on my phone without getting upset after seeing someone that I wish I looked like. And I started to see these societal norms of people who had, lean bodies and they were muscular and their shirts fit a certain way. And I started looking at myself and I realized that I didn't look like that. And I started to see that as a problem, even though I know it isn't. I think that everyone is unique in their own way, but I couldn't get myself to be okay with that. And instead of working out, I just tried to isolate myself, and I constantly covered myself up. I was overweight for a bit, and I would wear hoodies, I would wear baggy shirts because I didn't want anyone to see my chest because I thought it poked out too much, and stupid things like that. I would bring my hoodie up over my chin because I thought people could see my chin, and I just paid such attention to minor things like that don't actually matter, but it was such an insecurity of mine. And it's something that is, of course, very normal. It's very human to find little things about yourself that not many other people are going to realize, and you find them as a bit of an issue, or you don't like them very much. But it became an issue daily, and it got to the point where I I couldn't even go outside sometimes because I thought I looked so bad. So it would completely change my plans because I just didn't like what I saw in the mirror. If I had a plan to go out, if I needed to go to the store, anything like that, I would completely cancel it just because of my appearance. And that's when I knew it was becoming a problem. I began doing cardio in my room. I looked up a 30-minute exercise on YouTube, and I did it every single night in my room, and I lost over 20 pounds from that. And I started using dumbbells on my bedroom floor. I have 25-pound dumbbells. I still have them to this day, the same ones that I used. And I was just benching on my floor. I would do push-ups, and it made a difference, but I still didn't feel complete, and I didn't feel like myself. And that's something that took me a long time to find. And now, after all this time, I do finally feel like myself. I feel like I know who I am now with my appearance, and mentally as well. I feel like a real person. And at that time, that was my biggest problem, is I would look in the mirror and I just didn't know who I was. I didn't think that the way that I looked was me. It almost felt like I was impersonating someone. And I just knew that something needed to change, but I didn't know what it was. And eventually, I started to have plans to move away to California. And I remember the day that we were leaving, I was really sad because I didn't really want to go. But I remember we got a picture with some family before we left. And I was wearing a white shirt that day. And that was something that I typically avoided because I have gynecomastia, and that shows a bit more prominently through white clothes. If you don't know what gyno is, you just have extra tissue in your chest and it makes it kind of puffy. And I saw that picture the day that we were leaving, and I couldn't stop looking at it on the way there because I hated the way that I looked so much, and I couldn't believe that anyone saw me that way. I realized in that picture that that is just how I look when I'm not in front of a camera, when I'm not trying my hardest to make my hair look good, when I'm not wearing clothes that are more flattering. That's just how I looked to everyone, and I looked horrible in my eyes. And from that moment, I kept telling myself, as soon as we get to California, I am getting a gym membership and I'm changing. That was my turning point, was I need to change because I can't stop looking at this one picture. I started crying because I saw this picture. And so when we got to California, that's exactly what I did. The very first thing I did after packing my bags, that same day, I got everything in my room and I went to the gym and I got a membership. And from that day, I dragged myself every single night, no matter how bad I was feeling, I dragged myself to the gym. I made myself eat the foods that I needed to eat. And even though it was a process at first, because I had no idea what I was doing, I was just starting, I still struggled with my diet, knowing what to eat. I didn't lift properly, and I primarily did cardio, and so I ended up being skinny fat. That was after about a year of lifting. And it was a very long process, but eventually, after being skinny fat for a while, I knew that nothing was changing, because in my head I was thinking, well, I'm skinny fat. That means that I'm fat, so I should keep cutting until I'm not fat. And that was completely wrong. But I only realized that once I found someone to teach me and tell me what I was doing wrong. And I realized so many things over that period of time that within the year of 2023 specifically, I became a completely different person. I was just looking at pictures of myself back in that year before I started recording this, and I turned into a completely different person because I started listening to advice on how to properly care for my diet. how to properly work out, how to keep myself accountable. And I went from being overweight and low muscle mass and overall just hating myself mentally and physically to being a person that I could genuinely accept, and I could see more in myself in those more recent pictures, how much more satisfied I was and how much more whole I felt. And that's something that I'd hope everyone is able to experience upon finding accountability, which I genuinely believe and know for a fact is the biggest thing that anyone can find if they're struggling with their fitness. And not even just fitness, but anything in general, but fitness especially. If you have accountability and someone to let you know that you aren't doing things right, it will change your life. Because sometimes in any situation that you're struggling with, you just need a second opinion. If you're going through a relationship problem, you'll ask your friend, well, what do you think I should do? It just relieves stress having some outside eyes telling you what they think, because they don't have the stress on their shoulders of that situation, so they can think more clearly. Which is exactly why finding someone to help you with your fitness and keep you accountable will be the big break that you are looking for, if you want to call it that. It's not going to change overnight, but if there ever was a big break, that is it. Is finding a way to keep yourself accountable. Because that's the one main turning point that changed my life. And I really believe that if I hadn't found accountability, I would probably still be in the same shoes that I used to be in. So if you really feel stuck, I highly recommend finding someone to keep you accountable. If you can't do it yourself, if you can't keep yourself from eating the foods that you shouldn't be eating, if you can't make yourself go to the gym, if you can't stop sleeping in and skipping your goals, find a way to change it. I do that for many people, and if you are interested in me helping you, that's exactly what I do. I've been able to keep myself accountable because I learned exactly how to do it. I am able to do that for other people, and I've gotten many people great results by doing exactly that. Finally, finding accountability is what changed my life forever. And now that I learned it, it's something that I will personally hold for the rest of my life. And I'm thankful to now be able to teach that accountability to other people so that they can do it for themselves. I'm so grateful that I have acquired that, because it helps people with so much more than just fitness. It helps them throughout the rest of their life. If you can genuinely channel accountability and understand what it means to keep yourself accountable, you will genuinely be able to do anything. But you have to want that too. And if you keep cutting yourself short, if you keep telling yourself that you will just find your big break, then you will continue spinning the tires in the mud, and you won't get to the goal that you want to see. You'll continue covering your chin with your hoodie. You'll continue hunching over your shoulders so that no one can see your chest. You'll continue skipping out on the gym because you don't want people to see you. That's exactly what I was doing. You have to want this too. So, if you want me to hold you accountable, if you genuinely need that help, you can read the description and I'll tell you more about how I can do that for you. I became the person I finally wanted to become, and I would hope that I can help you do the very same thing. You don't need the perfect workout plan. You don't need the perfect diet plan. You need someone to be by your side and help you get past these things that you can't do yourself. You need to ask yourself, how many years, how many months have you been doing this and you haven't seen progress? How many times have you told yourself that I can't do it? How many times have you told yourself that you're too tired, that you don't want to eat this? And how many times have those things actually been true? How many times have you told yourself something that was probably deep down just an excuse because you didn't feel like it? It's probably a lot. And if that's the case, you need to seek accountability. Because at the end of the day, if you can't do these things yourself after trying time and time and time again, then that is just going to continue happening. You cannot just keep letting yourself down. And the reason that it upsets me so much to see people doing it and see people saying that they're not like everyone else, that they just can't do it, is because I said the same thing. I was lying to myself. It is just an excuse. No matter how deep down it frustrates you to hear that, you are just making excuses. You have no reason to not be where you're at. You have no reason not to try at the very least. If you are telling yourself these things that you're just not like them, you are never going to be where you need to be. But that doesn't have to be that way unless you let it. So, don't continue going to sleep telling yourself that you'll do it tomorrow. Don't tell yourself you'll do it next week, because you're not going to. Do it today. Stop skipping out on what you know you can achieve deep down. Stop making excuses and let yourself live. It's so much more freeing when you finally drop the excuses and just push yourself past the barrier. People are probably going to think you look stupid, but who cares? I was in the gym. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what my form was supposed to look like. I had no idea how any of these exercises worked. I looked like an idiot. But at the end of the day, I was trying. I knew I was trying. And now look where I'm at. I made it to where I want to be. I overcame that process because I didn't let that feeling of being embarrassed stop me from trying. And if you are going to let that affect you permanently, and you're going to let that feeling stop you, then you have to realize early on that that's something that's going to play out through the rest of your life. Not just through your fitness, but with work, with friends, with relationships, with family. You are never going to be a whole person if you let embarrassment and fear dictate what you do with yourself. So, don't give up on yourself. Seek accountability. Don't keep making excuses, and start now. It doesn't have to be tomorrow. You don't have to wait. Nothing is stopping you from starting now. I don't care if you're in your room, it's in the middle of the night. I don't care. Do something. Start. Get accountability. Do some push-ups. Start a home workout. Eat healthier. Put down the chips. Throw them in the garbage. Just do something. And that one step is one more step towards your success than if you sat there and you kept making the excuses, you kept eating the chips, you kept sleeping in. It's one more step towards success, and there's nothing wrong with that. Even if you feel like it does nothing, even if you still feel terrible afterwards, that's one more bit of courage that you have on the person who didn't do it. So, if you want my help, as I mentioned, you can read the description, and I'll tell you more on how I can give you that accountability that I have learned. And I really hope to help anyone who genuinely seeks it. If you're not ready to keep yourself accountable, then don't message me. I'm genuinely serious about keeping people accountable. I genuinely want to change lives the way that mine changed. I'm very serious about it. And if that's you, if you want to actually pursue a better future, I am absolutely positive I can provide you with that. But you have to want it. Thank you. And if you have any questions, let me know. DM me on Instagram or drop it in the comments.